or at least the.
It was
So now it's recording. Okay.
It was flashing, so I didn't.
Yeah. So in Bruges. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Kimmel and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Dylan Kimmel.
Hey, how's it hanging, everybody?
We survived Lexington Comic Con.
We survived. I cannot believe it. That was crazy. That was crazy.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We met a lot of people. I was estimating that over the course of the 4 days, we probably spoke to somewhere around 120 people out of the, undoubtedly thousands of people who were there. But still really good numbers, I was happy with that. I think we accomplished what we set out to do, which was to promote the podcast, to get our names out there a little bit more, make some new contacts, and hopefully pick up some more followers and subscribers, which we did. I think it worked, and good thing is now we still have, plenty of business cards and things left over. So we're just kind of trying to hand those out, wherever we can.
Main goal is to just be out of them. Not have them at all.
Yeah, we want to get rid of them, just to kind of make our investment more worthwhile there. But yeah, we had a great time, and just not only meeting people attending the convention, but running into some of our friends and fellow actors and filmmakers, and then other businesses, vendors and stuff who were there. So it was an all around good experience. I'm glad we did it, and hopefully if we do it again next year, and it'll be even bigger and better, because now we know what to expect going into it. So but today we are going to be discussing an extremely talented director, writer, and producer, which we've discussed some of his films already this season, but we wanted to dedicate a celebrity profile exclusively to him. So today we're going to be talking about Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan. He is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. He is up there with Steven Spielberg, and I mean, there's so many.
So many great directors, and I had mentioned to you that I'd never really realized this before, but on the directing side, he really hasn't directed that many films. I mean, it's like 16 or something like that.
Yeah, it's about 16 films is about all he's directed, and I mean, he got his big debut was like in the early 2000s or so. But Yeah, he's highly sought after. He is known as probably the biggest filmmaker living today who's still relatively young, because all the other big hotshot directors are nearing their hundreds now. Nearing it. They're not quite 100 yet, but they're nearing it.
Yeah, they're definitely, the veterans out there are, slowing down a little bit. The Steven Spielbergs and the George Lucases and
I think I saw that
like
Clint Eastwood is gearing up for his last film too.
Yeah, he's up there. I mean, he's in his 90s now, so
late retirement. I don't want to say that's a very short retirement or anything like that, because I'd want that guy to live forever, honestly.
Right, but Christopher Nolan is definitely as far as what I would consider like the newer generation of directors. He is certainly one of the best. So
yes, yeah.
Let's get into Christopher Nolan and his background.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan. Christopher Edward Nolan was born July 30th, 1970.
Okay.
And he was born in a little town called, Westminster, London.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
To a father who was a British advertising. He was in British advertising, so a British advertising executive, and his mother was an American flight attendant.
Yeah, but it's always interesting to me that when you read about celebrities and their families, their backgrounds, and everything, that in most cases their parents had regular jobs.
Jobs. Yeah.
They weren't necessarily born into entertainment a lot of
not
times.
Not always the case, but it's kind of, it does give you a little bit more hope for someone that didn't have any family members starting in that. I do have a family in the industry, and they've told me it's a pretty hard industry to get into. So.
Oh, it is. A lot of competition.
Shoot, I even have family that don't even know that they're family in the industry.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
you can guess who that is by my last name, but but yeah, it is very interesting, and so based on that alone, you can probably assume that he has dual citizenship in both England and the United States.
Yeah, that's a lot of actors and directors do that. Pretty much have to continue working in the industry. So.
Yeah, he has two other siblings, an older brother named Matthew and a younger brother named Jonathan, who he tends to collaborate with often. They tend to write a lot, so they must have a very close bond. Them. Interesting enough, so Christopher Nolan has a British accent. His brother Jonathan does not. He has an American accent. So that is very interesting. Like we said, dual citizenship. So I'd say that his brother spent a lot more time with his mother, and he spent a lot more time with his father.
Yeah, that would make sense. But talking about accents, though, it's also really interesting how it seems like people from other countries, for some reason, don't have as much of a problem adapting their accent to an American accent. Whereas an American trying to speak with a British accent or German or whatever
it does not come out very well.
It seems like they struggle a little bit more.
I mean, just take me for example. I'm not going to be able to do a very accent. Here, let me try and do a British accent for you. Okay, it's going to come out Indian, I swear. All right, so here we go. We're going to hit. See,
that's not that bad. That was pretty good.
See, now that's once I call myself out on it, it ends up being perfect.
You put unfair pressure on yourself.
Yeah, but yeah. So, but yeah, he's got a British accent there, and everything. I can do an Irish accent pretty good, but once I put myself on the spot, I'm not going to be able to do it. No. I think that's probably what it is as soon as you get put on the spot of doing that accent, you're like.
No. suddenly it's just gone. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
right out the window. Now, I want to get into some trademarks here because filmmakers have trademarks. Now, I'm not so sure that they are voluntary, like they went in and thinking, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to put this in the movie," But, sometimes it is.
But it just becomes a part of their style, and whether it's intentional or not, there are certain things that you will see from directors in each one of their movies.
Right. So for him, let me see here. Let me see that I get this right. Now, before I get into this here, I just want to go through some quotes on how well he's, well established he is. So he was dubbed an emotional mathematician by Guillermo del Toro. An emotional mathematician. So that means that he's, very good at mathematics. Well, he's very good at finding the emotion in characters.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a science to it.
Yeah, and from Joseph Bevan, he said of Christopher Nolan's films that they allow the art house regulars to enjoy superhero flicks and multiplex crowds to engage in a labyrinthian conceit. I'm sorry, I can't read my whole handwriting there. But yeah, so, I mean, I'd say that's very true. I mean, you can see it just from his own movies. You're like, there is something art houseian about it.
Yeah, even the big, blockbuster movies that he has made have been, they still have they're good movies. I mean, on their own. Like even if it wasn't like a comic book movie or whatever, the story and the emotion, and everything is still very much present. So
I mean, there is something true to that because there is something art houseian about it, but also he brings in the crowds.
Right.
Like everyone loves those movies. And lastly, he views himself as an indie filmmaker working within the studio system.
Yep, that actually makes a lot of sense too. With some of the movies that he's put out, they have that. I guess he even though he's working the big time, he still considers himself. He still would put himself in the same category as like you and me as being independent filmmakers. That's probably the kinds of films that he would really prefer to make, but. Because he has had so much success, with these movies that Hollywood keeps coming back to him and wanting him to make these epic.
Movies and it's very interesting. Like just comparing myself to him there. So he got his start, like his big break with a superhero movie. I generally do not want to make a superhero movie. I wouldn't be opposed to making a superhero movie, but
But it's a lot.
Yeah, you've seen my list of movie ideas. Not nearly any of them are superhero movie ideas. I mean, I might have a superhero flair with some of them, but they're not.
It's hard. It's very hard to take on a superhero movie, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Coming up with an original plot and something that engages the audience. Finding a new way to establish a character that's already been established sometimes, as it was with Superman, Batman, But yeah, his trademarks. So let's get into some of his trademarks here. Films will almost always leave the character's fate open to interpretation. Like you can take that with pretty much every single one of them. Like, I mean, there's so many good ones. One that pops into mind is Inception. Have you seen Inception?
Yes.
The very ending of that with the turn dial or what do you call that little toy?
Compass? Is that what you're thinking of? Or
tabletop. Well, it's still spinning at the end of the movie and everything like that. And it's established early on that if that keeps on turning, it's still in the dream, or something to that effect. And he, as that movie ends, it's still going that way. I mean, there's like so many things. Like Prestige is one that ends in that way. But also, he will not use CGI all that much. He will tend to use practical effects as much as possible.
Yeah. which is always a good thing.
Yes, I would love to be that because he can do. If you're a well-established director, the studio's going to go ahead and say, yeah, you can go ahead and do practical. You know, you bring in the big bucks, go ahead, do practical. Yeah. Unfortunately for me in particular, if I were to be that way, I'm not going to get it. You know, so but that's okay. You just have to make a name for yourself to be that.
And then
way.
you pretty much get free reign to do whatever you want.
I mean, he does. He does. I mean, he just said he got the indie. He's an indie filmmaker living in the studio. Films will end with a sudden flash cut to black with the title coming up. In all of his movies, they just go at the very end.
Just like dramatic, just sharp cut to black. I never really paid attention.
And you know what? I'll do a quick edit like that just so people get the idea.
Yeah.
You know, there you go. That's what he does. And for those that that are just listening, you would have no idea what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
so you don't know what he's doing over there.
But the original score will play over most of the film. Very rarely is there no music.
Silence. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, funny enough, I think that might have been an issue with me too. Is like once I get the music in there, I'm like, I can't have it be silent through all.
Yeah, it's like figuring out where to place that music, and there really is an art just to that by itself. Is where is the silence appropriate, and where do you need a little bit of score? Where do you need like a soundtrack kind of song? You know, like because all of that evokes feelings and emotions. So
I mean, he constantly collaborates with Hans Zimmer on the music. So, you know, the music is also the soul to the movie.
Right.
And Hans Zimmer is the soul to a Nolan movie. So, because very rarely is there ever a music. Now, Tenet was not done by him. Hans Zimmer did not compose the music for that one.
Right.
That was the only one where there was like a conflict with the schedule. So he was unable to commit to it. But more often than not, Hans Zimmer is behind the score. And Hans Zimmer is a master composer.
Yes.
It's like if it's kind of like how John Williams is always associated with Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do have composers that tend to work with the same directors over and over again.
Danny Elfman with Tim Burton.
Exactly. And, you know, there's so many other great composers, you know, out there, you know, Elmer Bernstein, and who has worked mostly with Ivan Reitman, the late Ivan Reitman. I'm trying to think of some others where it's been like that.
You know, to be honest, the music score going on throughout the entire thing, I even thought about that for our podcast there too, but, you know, honestly, that's kind of hard to do.
It is, because just making it appropriate, like, you know, you want to have the right style of music.
It can't be too loud. It has to be perfect. And
then, you know, having to, you know, do you change the tone of the music depending on what we're talking about? Like, if we have make a joke or something funny, do you change that to a more light, you know, comical tone?
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see a composer actually come up to us and come up with the music for us. What is our sound? You know, what do you see?
Exactly.
You know, what do you hear when you hear us talk?
We would, you know, based on the types of subjects that we talk about and just our general, you know,
our general personality. What is it? What is it?
That banter and everything. Like, so yeah, we definitely want to eventually, you know, find a composer to actually compose, you know, maybe an original theme, you know, for us. Some theme music, you know, would be great.
Yeah, we would like that. That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now another interesting thing, the antagonists, and I think this is true. I mean, if you go back into your memory banks here for the others, the antagonists will be motivated by philosophical beliefs, not money.
Yeah, I guess that is true. Yeah, now that I think about it.
I mean, I'm just thinking about that one line that Heath Ledger's Joker says in The Dark Knight. It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and he burns a whole pile of cash. So,
So yeah, there's lessons to be learned in these movies, and I guess that's the approach that he takes with the characters.
And the protagonists have a desire to return to their children. Some of them, if they have children, they would have a desire to return to them. Films will contain blackmail in some form or another. What was that?
Oh, sorry, that was my
that was
my work.
Oh.
That was my work phone
Okay.
going off there.
Oh,
It's
shoot.
like they're either.
That's pretty loud.
Yeah, it is pretty loud. Can't miss that.
The films will contain blackmail. And the films will explore concepts of time appearing in soundtrack, theme, and story and plot. Now, there's a difference in story and plot. I don't think people know that. There's differences in plot and story. Now, my educational side is failing me there, so I cannot educate you on the difference on plot and story, but there's a difference. Go ahead and look it up. What's the difference between plot and story?
I don't know. I would think story would be more of the overall arc of the movie or whatever, like the general, sort of like a general outline, whereas plot gets into more specific details, like the devices and the actions and things that move the story along. That's how I would look at it. But
use of characters with mysterious backgrounds.
Can see that a lot too.
Will frequently cast Michael Caine, Cillian Murphy, Gary Oldman, Tom Hardy, Kenneth Branagh, Josh Stewart, Anne Hathaway, Christian Bale, and Jeremy Theobald.
Yes, we have seen all of those in a lot of Christopher Nolan's movies. So,
and characters will seek vengeance over the death of a loved one. Will often gain either a physical or psychological handicap over the duration of the film.
I've seen that too.
And so, those are his trademarks. So you'll find those trademarks in all of them. Now, a person that like me that loves film will often, will be able to tell who's directing the film. Will not need the director's credit in the film.
You can tell by the style and by looking at those signatures.
Fun thing that I'd like to mention here, just to even audience members that are on the regular will probably recognize a filmmaker and not even realize it's the filmmaker. I remember showing my ex a couple of movies here, and it was just interesting. It was like a little, interesting to see her reaction to a certain director. I would never mention the director, but she hated the director because, I'll mention the movies: Fight Club, Seven, Gone Girl, And the interesting thing is that watching these movies, I loved all those movies by David Fincher, and she would be like, "I hate this movie. This is an awful movie. I do not like it."
She didn't even realize why she hated it. And it's like if she had known the director, she'd be like, "Oh, that's why, because I can't stand any movie that he makes."
So it's very interesting to me, that concept of like, people, what you like. So influenced at a young age by the work of Ridley Scott and other sci-fi films such as Space Odyssey or Star Wars. He would research extensively on how that movie was made, and he even made a little short film at a young age that was an homage to Star Wars called Space Wars. And he had an uncle that was in NASA, and he gave him footage from that, and he would use that footage in his little movie and had his brother in the movie. His younger brother Jonathan was in that little short film. And by his teens, he ended up working with Adrian and Rocco Bellick, making a little film called Tarantella that was showcased on Image Union an indie film and video showcase that was on PBS.
Oh, okay. A little public access television there.
So that's very interesting. So already
interesting.
starting to see his...
Yeah, interesting way to start, but still kind of being in the public eye.
Yeah. Now, he was educated at Haileybury and Imperial Service College, and later studying at English Literature University College, or he studied English Literature at University College London, UCL, using UCL's filmmaking facilities, and as president of the Union's Film Society with his then girlfriend, future wife, and future producer, Emma Thomas.
Oh, yes.
They were able to make, they were screen feature films in 35 millimeter, and during the school year, and used the money that they profited from that, and make 16 millimeter films over the summer.
Very cool. I always thought it would be fun to shoot a film, in like 35 millimeter
Yes.
or whatever. It's
I've wanted to do that for a very long time. Film is very expensive, so
yes, because it's you. That's why in the old days why they would try to get something in as few takes as possible, because the film was so expensive, and so it's like once you start rolling, it's like you better be
very
like,
big
on your
challenge
games.
there. Like, he is one of the few filmmakers that will try and preserve that artistic nature of using millimeter film.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's like everybody basically tries to replicate the look of film, but with digital, which can be done, but it's still not. It's just not quite the same. It's not the same as having those cracks and pops in the film grain and stuff like that, and the the color saturation and all that stuff just looks different on film than it does on digital. So.
And I would love to do that. That would be a phenomenal thing. But by 1993, he earned his bachelor's degree and worked as a scriptwriter, a camera operator, director of corporate videos and industrial film.
So he's already breaking into the business a little bit there and learning about the ins and outs of the entertainment industry.
Oh yeah, it sounds to me that he's tried really hard, very successfully, might I add, to do that. Now, by 1996, he made a short film called Larceny. Now, you cannot find this film anywhere. A short film called Larceny that appeared at Cambridge Film Festival. And by 1997, a little short film called Doodlebug. Now, this little film you can find, but if you buy his feature film, The Following, you can buy this on Criterion, and it actually has the little short film, The Doodlebug, on there.
Oh,
on
okay.
The special features.
Okay.
So you can watch that. Now, The Following is only available in Criterion. You can only find it there, which honestly, The Following, now this is a movie that is phenomenal. Now, this is his big break. The Following is. By mid-'80s, he filmed a feature film called Larry Mahoney. He was trying to make a feature film with his brother called Larry Mahoney, and it failed. Never got the budgeting there. He faced rejections left and right at this point.
As do many people in the business.
Yeah, and he had a limited pool of finance in the UK. He stated, never had support from the British film industry, is what he said. Now, by 1998, on a budget of £3,000, now, that's not a lot, starring Jeremy Theobald, a full year to make this movie. Cast and crew were friends of Nolan's, and they all had employment with full-time jobs. They all had full-time jobs, and you know how hard it is to work with a full-time job.
Yep.
So all of them had to work on Saturdays, so I imagine there'd be skeleton crews on that.
Yep.
Saturdays only. Entire year making this movie.
Oh yeah. And you and I think have both experienced that. I know I have seen that with
Limited
you know,
equipment.
Yeah, little short film that I did, Jenkins Choice, that was like a 26-minute film, but it took us 3 months to film it for that very reason, because we could only film on certain days. Pretty much everybody that was working on the cast and crew had day jobs.
Yeah.
And so literally we were really only filming on weekends and maybe occasionally an evening, like through the week. And so it stretched out over 3 months. I think it was only 11 actual days of filming.
Yeah.
But those 11 days were stretched across 3 months. So yeah. And the longer you string something like that out, obviously it's not like, shooting a movie like consistently for several weeks at a time, because people's looks change. Their hairstyles change, either their hair starts growing out, or
they start losing their hair,
or whatever, and so you have to make you have to make adjustments, there to try to maintain a consistent look. So there's all kinds of difficulties that can play into it when you're filming for that long.
Oh yeah. But I just found that phenomenal that he was able to make that, because this was his big break. He ended up being in film festivals and won a whole bunch of awards. And this actually got him to make his big film debut, starring Guy Pearce and what's her name, Carrie Ann Moss. Memento, which was based off of a short story that his brother had wrote called Memento Mori. Now that is a very good film. That was released in 2000 and distributed by New Market. It was rejected by nearly every studio.
And we've seen that kind of thing time and time again too. It's like sometimes you shop around a script to several big studios, and and you get lucky if you find that one that bites and says, okay, we'll do this. And so
yeah. And then by 2001, he and his wife founded Syncope Inc.
Oh yeah.
So they have a producing company together. And by 2002, impressed with Memento, Steven Soderbergh.
Soderbergh.
Soderbergh. Yeah, thank you. Recommended Nolan for Insomnia to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers wanted a big name director, obviously, but Soderbergh was like, get this guy.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we get Insomnia starring Al Pacino and Robin Williams.
Yeah. There you go. Now you've got big names attached to your projects. It's like, you can see the progression in his career, like from where he started and mostly just working with friends, and it's like now you've got big it doesn't get much bigger than guys like that. So
now he almost directed a Howard Hughes biopic. Now I found this interesting because I read somewhere that was going to star Jim Carrey as Howard Hughes.
I think I remember something about that too.
And he wrote this script, and he said it was like the best script he's ever written. But he shelved it. Do you know why he shelved it? Because near that same time, Martin Scorsese came out with a little movie called The Aviator.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I guess Christopher Nolan's like, there's no way I'm going to be able to compete with Martin Scorsese. I'm going to put this away.
Forget about that. Yeah. The Aviator was good too, but
yeah. And usually now I've never seen it done where there's like two films released in the same year that one's better than the other. Like usually one is better than the other, but both of them being on par with each other. Now that's unprecedented. I imagine that would be on par, because if you look at Christopher Nolan's track record, he does not have a bad movie. He does not have a bad movie. Like every single one of them, his lowest rated movie happens to be The Prestige. And The Prestige,
I haven't seen that one. But.
The Prestige only has 71%. 71% is not bad at all.
No, it's not. That's still not terrible. I mean, you're still up in that higher range. So, but I guess compared to his others, that's the.
I'm always amazed by how well a director is if they're doing this track record of having extensively good films. Like Quentin Tarantino is also on that track record of having good films as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interesting enough, though, all of his films are rated R usually.
Yeah, because of all the violence, the blood, and yeah.
But Christopher Nolan, they're always PG-13. Like, he's a class director, is what he is.
Yeah.
Like, everyone can go see his movies.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's how you, when you think of longevity, I think that's how you have a really good career is like, okay, I'm only going to take it this far. Like, I'm not going to cross that line, because as soon as I cross that line, then I lose a certain section of
not only that,
the audience.
Yeah, and not only that, like, when I say he's a class actor, like, even with his actors, like, when he casts, like, a female role in his movies, he never, like, if you actually notice his female actresses actually wear presentable clothing, not revealing clothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Like, Catwoman in the comics, like, Anne Hathaway played Catwoman. Catwoman in the comics, they're a little bit more, I mean, you're writing a comic book for basically boys.
Teenagers, pretty much. Preteens and teenagers.
And, boys tend to want eye candy, so.
Yeah, I mean, you have the really tight, form-fitting, clothing and stuff like that.
And Christopher Nolan, when he cast Anne Hathaway, now she is in a role where she's not dressed like that at all as Catwoman. It's much more presentable, much more tactical. And
it's efficient. It's efficient.
Yeah.
It's not just, putting, like you said, eye candy out there where it's like, if anybody was really fighting crime in something like that, well, I mean, even going back to the 60s Batman TV series and what like Catwoman and Batgirl wore in that, it was like, nobody would ever fight in something like that, because you probably would rip the clothing. Like, if you tried to kick too high, you would probably split the costume right down the leg or something. So it's just it's not practical.
Yeah, no, it isn't. But he put that on the shelf, and then by 2003, he approached Warner Brothers with the project of making a more grounded take on Batman. Yes. Now that's the movie that got me into Christopher Nolan, and I think almost everybody, because this was his big break. That was the big one.
That was my introduction to Christopher Nolan, was Batman Begins.
And honestly, I'd say that he saved me from, like I mentioned this in Tenet, like he saved me from actually just sticking to superhero movies, because it was him that he's like, okay. Like it was like him. Let me take you on for a little ride.
He kind of like subverted the genre a little bit there.
He kind of unlocked, things, and he's like, there's more to this than just that.
Yeah, that was a big one, and that was, I mean, his take on Batman was probably my second favorite, version of those characters behind Tim Burton. He was the because the Batman, franchise got off the path. Like, as soon as Tim Burton, left, they started going in a different direction. They started going more comical and campy, and so Christopher Nolan brought the franchise back to that dark and serious tone that we expected to see from a Batman film.
Now I'm going to pause it here for a moment here. Now I see that my camera, because now I have it facing me, my camera is about to go dead.
Uh-oh. This is not good.
So I have an idea here for, well, it's not about to go dead, like my phone isn't going to be dead, but I have a quick little idea here that the last remainder of this podcast, if you're watching it, we're going to have it like both of us just to finish it out, so it doesn't so people can keep watching it. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, you mean doing like a split
yeah,
screen
like
kind of
our first episode.
Oh yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, where we have both a two shot, both of us in the same shot.
Which shouldn't be too jarring since we're facing each other now, and so once it does. But anyways, let's see how well it goes.
Yeah, we'll keep trucking along here.
But anyways, as I was saying, Batman Begins. Now that movie stars Christopher Nolan. Christian Bale. I'm stuck on Christopher Nolan. Stars Christian Bale, who had the oh my goodness, like he did a movie just before this called The Machinist, and in The Machinist he was bony.
Yeah, I mean, he lost a ridiculous amount of weight for that.
He had a diet of only apples and tuna. Apples and tuna.
It was scary. It was scary how thin he got for that. I'm sure he got sick too.
Oh my goodness. And within a spectrum of only a couple of months, he gained a whole lot of muscle to play Batman. In fact, Christopher Nolan steps him aside. He says, "This is too much muscle. You need to scale it back a bit." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So he done his job too well. But I just think it's just so like,
just the transformation was so dramatic. Yeah.
And not only that, but it also stars Michael Caine as Alfred. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman as
Lucius Fox.
Fish. Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
Lucius Fish. Who's Lucius Fish? Look, I'm a Batman fan. I don't know who Lucius Fish is.
Yeah, he's the one Lucius is the one that comes up with all of the gadgets and everything for Batman. His armor and the Batmobile and the grappling hooks and all that, the cool stuff that we're used to seeing with
Christopher Nolan knows how to cast a movie. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that. Gary Oldman, one of my he's another one of my all-time favorite actors. Honestly, this entire cast is a few of my favorite actors.
Mm-hmm. As Jim Gordon.
Jim Gordon. Now that guy is chameleon in pretty much every single role.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he's almost unrecognizable in a lot of his roles. I keep thinking of was it Hannibal?
Yeah, he was in Hannibal. The Fifth Element.
Yeah, I mean I
love that role.
He really transforms himself for just about any role that he does.
Leon the Professional. The guy's phenomenal in everything. I like yeesh. Can you not be good for once?
Right. Can you just make some crap? But yeah, I mean the whole trilogy that Christopher Nolan did. I mean, for me, the next movie, The Dark Knight, was like that. Where Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, was the gold standard for a while. When The Dark Knight came along, it's like he set the bar again. Christopher Nolan set the bar again.
As a matter of fact,
such a good movie.
As a matter of fact, because of his movies, Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises and everything like that, superhero movies after that wanted to follow suit and copy him to very ill effect. Because one, you're not Christopher Nolan. So, but yeah, that Batman Begins was phenomenal. That was followed by the 2006 movie The Prestige, starring Hugh Jackman, Michael Caine, and Christian Bale. Mm-hmm. And David Bowie. David Bowie was in this movie too. You've got to see this movie too. Scarlett Johansson, before she ended up big time, because I don't think she was as well known at this point.
Yeah, that would have been earlier in her career, for sure.
She played a love interest to, I believe it was Hugh Jackman's character. And her character dies in a freak accident. A magic trick gone wrong. And that separates these two magicians from each other. And, they end up in a feud with each other. Mm-hmm. Until a new magic trick comes along and they learn about it and try and compete with each other with this magic trick. And oh my goodness, it is such a good movie. Such a good movie. Definitely recommend that one, as I recommend almost all of his movies. Now, that was based on a book by the same name by Christopher Priest. And that was followed by the 2008 movie, The Dark Knight.
Yes, that was just so phenomenal. I mean, you had, Heath Ledger, as the Joker. Up to that point, I didn't think that
you didn't think anyone would be able to top Jack Nicholson,
right? But he took it he played it differently. He took it in a different direction. But I'm like, my gosh, I mean, like he was just so like disturbed and like, but at the same time almost likable, and it was like he really balanced that perfectly of being this villainous person, but it's like he would make you laugh. I mean, that's what the Joker does, is like he's murdering people, but somehow he finds a way to make you sort of like him a little bit. And
The interesting thing about that is my little sister Trinity, she does not like Batman, hates Batman. I showed her Dark Knight, and I said, "What do you think?" She's like, "My goodness, that was good."
It was hard to deny how good it was.
The sad thing is that I was like, yeah, it's sad we can't get any more of his Joker. And she said, yeah, they moved on from that. Yeah, and he's passed away too. And she's like, he what? What? Oh, it's storage is full. So we've
reached the end of
reached the end there.
Camera.
So
that's okay. We will kind of reset a little bit here for the remainder of the episode.
Yeah, let's see here. I might do a quick cut. So
okay.
But we'll keep on recording, so I know where.
So we can do that. Let's
see here. See, it restarted on yours.
Oh, yeah. I wonder why yours didn't do that.
Now,
Weird.
Is your mic fully charged, or did it go?
No, mine's still going. Mine's still good. Microphone's good.
I'm probably going to unplug this so you don't get it tugged. Or do you think that'll be all right?
No, I think it should be okay. Yeah, it should be all right. And
oh, well, now I've knocked you out of there.
and we shouldn't have. And we're already at 45 minutes, so we probably don't really have too much longer to go in this episode anyway.
Yeah, I'm near the end here too.
Yeah, so
this one is going to be a little bit long, but not as long as. Now, can you still hear yourself?
yeah, I can still hear myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that works.
I think that'll be fine.
Okay.
So let me put this drink down here. Get the product placement out of the shot. Okay.
All right, and back to it here. No, that's a little too much longer.
Now, let you get in position there.
Okay.
So now we're back on track a little bit. Sorry
that.
for any little glitch there with the editing, but these are the things that happen sometimes with technology. So, but anyway, we were to continue talking about the Dark Knight. Obviously, Heath Ledger's Joker was so memorable, and then you had Aaron Eckhart as Two-Face.
Yeah.
Very different take on that character than what we had seen previously.
Like Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face was very cartoony.
It was okay, but it was a little bit goofy.
But his take on Two-Face, like, to be honest, I don't know if you can do Two-Face now, because that was too good.
Yeah.
Aaron Eckhart was really good on that. And also, I mean, this movie is like one of the first superhero movies to earn awards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's been nominated several times, and now it won for Best Sound Editing and Best Supporting Actor Heath Ledger posthumously.
Yeah. Which was well deserved.
Heath Ledger's performance was just so well done. And unfortunately, he passed away before he even got to see the movie finished.
Yeah.
but it was a well done performance. And to be honest with you, there's not been a good Joker since.
No,
I mean, Joaquin Phoenix did do a pretty good Joker, but that's like
that was way off from what was really in the comics, and they took a completely different spin on it. And I didn't really care for
Jared Leto.
I didn't really care for his portrayal either. I think he was probably the worst that we had seen, and
But I didn't really care for Jared Leto either. And we have another new Joker in Batman. He's been cast, Barry Keoghan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which we didn't really get to see much of him in that, so it'll be interesting to see.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he is. But we'll see. But following The Dark Knight, we had 2010's Inception.
Mm-hmm.
Dreams within dreams within dreams. Now that is espionage on another level. Many of his movies do include spies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a Cold War movie, but with dreams. Getting ideas from people's heads and everything like that. Oh
yeah,
like it's very good. Starring Leo DiCaprio, Tom Hardy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Mm-hmm.
Then at that time, Ellen Page, right? What's her name now, or his name?
It escapes me now, but I know what you're talking about.
I apologize. Yeah. But anyways, someone will tell me.
Yeah,
but
someone will correct us.
But that was a very good movie as well. Highly recommend that one. And that was followed by the finale of The Dark Knight
trilogy.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Yes. Which was, it was...
I don't feel like it was as good as The Dark Knight.
No, definitely not. I would probably rank it the lowest out of the trilogy.
Yeah, I'd rewatch The Batman Begins. I'd rewatch The Dark Knight. I'd probably watch The Dark Knight Rises if I'm doing a marathon.
Mm-hmm. But not really like just on its own. Like if you're gonna pick one out of the bunch, that's not gonna be the one.
I watched The Dark Knight alone. I watched The Batman Begins alone. The Dark Knight Rises, I don't really watch alone. It's
just like but
it's still good.
Yeah,
it's the best interpretation of Bane, because before that we had Batman and Robin Bane.
Right. Where he's basically just grunting, and he was more like the Incredible Hulk in that movie than he didn't talk or anything. He just spoke in grunts and growls and all that stuff. So he did say Bane. Yeah,
that's all he said. And instead you have this guy. I can't do the voice. He's like, oh yeah, sorry, like that.
Yeah, he had the weird.
Yeah.
The weird voice because he had
darkness is your ally.
So many people parodied that too after that movie.
Yeah, even in the Lego Batman movies, like the Bane in that one is also like that.
Yeah.
So, it's so funny because you got two characters there that have these voices that there've been riffs on those, because at first you wouldn't be able to understand what Bane is talking about.
Yeah, you really had to lean in and listen closely to figure out what he was saying.
Same thing with Batman too. Christian Bale's voice on that.
That's the one thing we talked about this at Comic-Con, because somebody that came to our booth, we started talking about comic book movies and everything. And that seems to be the consensus, not only with him, but with a lot of other people, was that was the one thing that they hated the most about Christopher Nolan's Batman, is when Christian Bale would do the Batman voice, where he had this gruff, Now,
here's the interesting thing.
Where is she? And everybody got tired of that.
Where is she? What have you done? I'm not going to lose my voice over that. But now, here's the interesting thing. I don't know if people notice this. Now, I encourage you to actually go back and watch Batman Begins. Now, go back and watch The Dark Knight. There is a subtle difference in the voice. He did not nail his Batman voice originally again. Because there is a subtle difference in that voice.
There was kind of this thing that he did too, where like not just the yelling and all that, but like the only way I can describe it is it's like The Mask. It was like The Mask was pinching his nose a little bit too hard, so he kind of had this like I can't really do it, but
It was a very triangular.
but it was like it was almost like it was like he couldn't. It was almost like he had a. Almost like he had a cold or something. You know what I mean? Like he had this, there was almost a little bit of a lisp or something to his voice too, but it all seemed like it was originating from the nasal passage. It was just a really weird kind of thing. But anyway.
Yeah. But now that was followed by he did end up producing, because he was pitched by David S. Gory, who was a co-writer for those movies. He was pitched to direct Man of Steel. But he didn't want to do another superhero movie.
Yeah.
So what he ended up doing is he hired Zack Snyder, impressed with 300 and Watchmen.
And then he produced
Man of Steel. Now, I actually loved Man of Steel. Man of Steel was the one movie that actually got me into Superman, because I was not a big Superman fan. If anything, I guess it took Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan to get me to appreciate Superman.
Whereas I grew up on the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and so that was I mean, I do up until that point. That was my favorite Superman, and it's and you go back and watch them now, and they are dated. I mean, compared to what we get now.
I mean,
but
honestly,
character-wise, he just nailed it.
Now, I will say that was probably the best Lex Luthor that we ever got in live action.
True.
Gene Hackman.
But TV, we've gotten some very good.
I love the character Otis. If I ever got a chance to play a role in that, I'd probably play. I don't think I could play Otis. I'd probably fit with Lex Luthor. Look at my head. I could get cast as Lex Luthor, right? Yeah.
But Otis was so much fun. Like it just a kind of a foil to Lex's plans. But anyway, back to Christopher Nolan. We didn't really get after The Dark Knight Rises. We really haven't gotten too many more films out of Christopher Nolan.
He takes a couple years break.
Yeah.
By 2014, he ended up making Interstellar.
Pretty good movie there. Saw that. Yeah.
And that is a phenomenal movie with Matthew McConaughey. Again, Michael Caine's in that movie. Is it Jessica Chastain in that movie too? Is that who it is?
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway's in that movie as well. And then that was followed by 2017. 2017 was when they had that big break. 2015, 2016, that's a 2-year gap. Dunkirk. Now, this is the first actual, based on real events movie directed by him. And at first I was like, man, I want him to stay in sci-fi. This is going to be crap. I don't know. Dunkirk was phenomenal, and somehow he managed to make his, twisty, move, where you're like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Because the thing is that there's things happening, like it follows this person, that person, this person. The way it's edited is in such a way where you're like, oh, that took place during that?
Yeah.
Like, then it's like mind blown. And Dunkirk was followed by the 2020 movie that we have to... We have
reviewed it earlier in the season, Tenet.
Now, we've already gave our thoughts on Tenet in depth.
Yes,
in that one. So go ahead and watch that.
So yeah, definitely check that out. And it's and so that actually turned out to be, so far, that is the last movie that we have gotten from Christopher Nolan as a director.
Yes, and the next movie that he will come out with is Oppenheimer, which is also based off true events.
Yes,
that's coming out this year.
Yeah, I have seen the trailers for that.
That's coming out this year, starring Cillian Murphy. That has a well-rounded cast as well.
Robert Downey Jr. There's a bunch of people. Yeah, but definitely. If you get a chance, check out as many of Christopher Nolan's movies as you can.
Yes,
you will not be disappointed. And like as we said, even if you don't normally like the superhero movies, and you think, I'm so sick of that because that seems like that's all there is now. if you watch that trilogy of Batman movies he did, like I think it will turn you around. If you didn't like superhero movies prior to that, watch those, and that will change the way you look at those kinds of movies. So
now I have omitted a few other details there, as there is so much about Christopher Nolan. But again, there's only like so many movies as well. There's like those are all of his movies.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And he's a bit of a recluse. Nolan feels that too much biographical info would detach the experience of the audience. And he says, I actually don't want people to have me in mind at all when they're watching the films. So with that, I'd say that is actually a good closing point.
Yes.
On Christopher Nolan.
Yes. I think that's an excellent way to end this episode. But before we go, as always, we want to remind all of you to be sure to subscribe, like, and share to our YouTube channel. And feel free to leave your comments on there, comments, questions, suggestions, anything you can think of, comment on the episodes, and if there's anything that you would like to see us talk about in the future, we're always open to that. Yeah. And you can also check us out on our socials. We're on all of the major social media platforms, so that's another good way you can communicate with us. You can reach out to us via email at kimmelandcox@gmail.com. That's our official podcast email. So be sure to check all those things out and get in on the conversation with us.
For sure.
And you can also play a really big role in just helping us with this podcast, helping us to improve it.
Yeah.
We've mentioned this a lot before, but if you go to our Patreon page, we have a lot of different packages on there, subscriptions or whatever, it just depending on what you're comfortable with and your budget. But you can play an instrumental role in taking this podcast to the next level just by contributing to it. And because we want to bring you the best show that we possibly can.
The best content that we can possibly can. There's like a whole multitude of things that we want to improve upon already. And we can't do it without the support of our audience here.
We can, but it's probably going to take a lot longer to get there, because, we're, that's, the majority of the equipment that we're using right now has been, graciously supplied by Dylan. He's putting his, hard-earned money, into this, and we both, even like with LexCon, we split all those expenses, right down the middle, because it wasn't really cheap, to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, just to have a booth, just to have a space, at a place like that. And so, we're right now, all of those expenses are coming out of our own pocket. And, but, with your help, we could do things like that. We can improve our equipment. We can put that towards a permanent location, a permanent space, and just to bring you a really, really not only fun but a really professional looking podcast, and that's where we want to be. So, so again, go on there, check that out, and take a look at some of those perks that we're offering. And
I don't know, do we want to mention what our next episode is?
Oh, yes. Our next episode, we are going to be talking about the film In Bruges.
In Bruges.
Yes, which I'm actually looking forward to checking out. I had not seen it. Dylan had shared a little clip from that with me, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. And so I'm like, this is going to be an interesting movie. It stars Colin Farrell. So looking forward to digging into that. So we hope you'll join us for that next week. But in the meantime, as always, be good to yourselves. Please be good to yourselves. And we'll see you next time around. You
dipstick.